A lot happened in the January transfer window this year, and while most of the business that was done were logical and justifiable signings, some others just didn't make sense. Some made no sense from the get-go, but with the others it took a couple weeks for us to see that they were just very pointless. In this video, we're going to be looking at all the signings that fall into any of those categories. These are 7 January transfers that make zero sense.
By the way, quick pause. If you're watching this and you're even slightly stressed about Valentine's gifts, don't be. We've got ya. If your partner supports your club or just survives match days with you and still sticks around, that is love. So this Valentine's Day, skip the boring gifts. Go to goal90.shop and use code VALENTINE14 for 14% off plus free shipping worldwide on jerseys, phone cases and football accessories. Get something for your partner, match with them if you want, or honestly, just treat yourself. Self-love counts too. Alright, back to the video.
We'll start with Jhon Durán moving to Zenit St Petersburg. This was one transfer that made us go, huh? When we saw it, because we just couldn't make sense of it. We're talking about a player who was considered one of the best young strikers in the world just a couple years back now, moving to Russia to play his football. I mean, at some point, this guy was being linked to top clubs like Arsenal and Barcelona, but he ended up moving to Al-Nassr for 77 million euros in January of 2025. The explanation was simple back then. He went for the money, he'll be back to Europe in some years. Well, he indeed returned to Europe, but only 6 months after. He moved to Fenerbahçe, and again, that made some sense. He had fallen out with the folks at Al-Nassr, and working with Jose Mourinho at Fenerbahçe was a very good incentive to join the club, so we could understand it. But 6 months later, he has now moved to Zenit St Petersburg, making it the 6th different league he'll have played in at the age of 22. And we just have no explanation for this one. Feels like his career just keeps going downhill. Like, surely his agent could have been able to get him a loan move to a club in one of Europe's top 5 leagues or something. We just don't see how moving to Russia helps this young man's reputation or development, and this is sort of linked to the next one, Yusef En-Nesyri to Al-Ittihad. For the Saudi club, it makes a lot of sense, of course. They had lost Benzema and they needed a replacement, so the Moroccan was not a bad idea. What made zero sense about this was Fenerbahçe letting him go. This was the club's first choice striker, and it just didn't make sense that they let him go halfway into the season with a title race in mind. It's worse when you remember that they also let go of Jhon Durán and Cenk Tosun in this same January window, only bringing in a 19-year-old Siddiqui Cherif on loan as a replacement. Why Fenerbahçe did this, we just cannot understand. It's the same way we can't understand why on earth Crystal Palace broke the bank for Jørgen Strand Larsen in January. Why on earth would you pay £50 million for a striker who has scored just 1 Premier League goal all season? You need to replace Mateta, who has scored 8 league goals, and you bring in a player who has scored just 1 goal in 22 Premier League appearances. That sounds bad enough on its own, but the price just makes it look so much worse. I mean, if you wanted Strand Larsen so badly, you could easily just have waited till the summer when Wolves will have been relegated, and then you'll get him at a much lower price. We really just cannot make sense of this one. Speaking of Wolves, they signed Angel Gomes this January, and it's a move that made zero sense for the player. Really, why are you leaving Marseille, who are battling for a Champions League ticket, to join a club that's destined to go down this season? A team like Wolves is the exact type that every ambitious player avoids halfway into the season, so we can't understand why a 25-year-old England international has decided to make this move. I mean, you're going to be on the losing side more often than not until the end of the season, so why? It just doesn't make sense. Even if he had fallen out of favour at Marseille, surely there were other clubs he could have joined all across Europe. Why Wolves? Anyway, while Gomes was leaving League One, Fernandez was moving there, and we can't really understand this particular one. This kid had made 5 appearances for the Barcelona first team, but he suddenly tendered a transfer request asking to leave the club to join PSG. You're playing for a club that has the best reputation when it comes to giving youngsters and academy graduates a route to the first team, but you choose to leave and go to PSG. That's just such a strange decision, especially because Dro had actually featured in the league and the Champions League for Barcelona this season. Since he moved in January, he has not even featured in any matchday squad for PSG, with Enrique even saying that he doesn't yet know when the teenager will make his debut for the European champions. No matter how hard we try, we just cannot make sense of this particular move. It still feels like the kid was ill-advised with this one, and it reminds us of Facundo Buonanotte's move to Leeds. the Argentinian youngster decided to cut his Chelsea loan deal short because he wasn't getting enough minutes. That's ambitious. But what wasn't ambitious is the destination he chose. Leeds United was just not the club for him to move to. And well, a couple weeks have passed, and it does indeed seem like it was a dumb decision. So far, he has been available for 4 games for Leeds, but he has only played 24 minutes for the club. He didn't come off the bench at all against Fulham, and he was completely left out of the squad for the game against Forest, leaving Chelsea where he wasn't playing regularly but was at least getting Champions League minutes, to join bottom half Leeds United where he's still not playing regularly and now even being left out of the squad just makes no sense at all. And perhaps he and his camp should have seen this one coming. Since Leeds switched to the 3 at the back setup, they've not had much use for pure 10s like Buonanotte, so it wasn't the smartest decision from the beginning. You know what else wasn't so smart? Brennan Johnson moving to Crystal Palace. First of all, Spurs letting him go just didn't make sense. You're struggling to score, a good number of your attacking players are out injured, and your solution is to sell your top scorer from the previous season. What sense does that make? And we don't blame Johnson for leaving. Thomas Frank wasn't giving him minutes, so he had to find a solution. But as a winger, why would you choose to move to a club that's famous for not using wingers? Oliver Glasner's setup doesn't accommodate wingers at all, everyone knows it. So that automatically makes his team not the best destination for wingers. And even for Crystal Palace, it doesn't make sense. Knowing the coach they have, why would they sanction a €40 million purchase of a player who doesn't fit perfectly into the team? Since Brennan Johnson joined Palace, he has had to play as a 10, and it's no surprise he has failed to record a goal or an assist in 6 games for the club. This one just didn't make sense from the jump. It didn't make sense for Spurs, didn't make sense for Palace, and surely didn't make sense for Brennan Johnson. Hopefully, in the summer, Glasner will be replaced by a coach who can actually bring the best out of the Welshman. But for now, that was a transfer that made 0 sense. Now, here's an honourable mention, Marc-André ter Stegen to Girona. Obviously, when the deal happened, it made sense for Barcelona, for Girona, and for ter Stegen. But just a couple weeks later, it now feels like a super pointless signing, and that's all down to ter Stegen's injury. The German goalkeeper recently tore his hamstring and had to undergo surgery. This injury is expected to keep him out until April, just a month before the season wraps up. So after just 2 appearances, the loan deal now feels absolutely pointless for the club and the player. Girona don't have the top goalkeeper they thought they were getting, and ter Stegen's World Cup hopes have just suffered a massive blow. You just gotta feel bad for them. Anyway, do you agree with our list here? Are there more January transfers that you think make 0 sense? Tell us about them in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.